Hi, this is Fam Electric Ghost.
Hey, how's it going?
So your stage name is Melanie Meriney?
Melanie Meriney.
Oh, Melanie Meriney. Okay, sorry, I got it. So yeah, I've been looking at your Spotify, and I'm going to give everybody your bio. I give a little brief intro. I'm Fam Electric Ghost. I interview indie artists from around the world. We've been interviewing folks, indie artists from all around the globe for about 2 years. And tonight we're interviewing Melanie Meriney. And you're a Pittsburgh-turned-Nashville artist.
Yes, I am.
And your newest EP, which was had the radio single "Lifeboat," is that the
Yeah.
latest album? Is that the right one? Because I'm going from your
Yeah,
your
that is. The EP is called Up in Lights. I put that out last May, and then we had the single Lifeboat from that, and I actually just released a single in November called Flame.
Oh, Flame is your latest. So we'll actually put all these links on the podcast, so everybody will be able to hear it. And the podcast will go out to Spotify and Apple and all these other platforms, which is kind of cool. We're on 12 different platforms, so the podcast will get published everywhere.
I love it.
So
thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I think you actually liked one of my songs, and my strategy is when somebody's on Instagram and they see one of my postings, if they're a musician, I ask them if they want to be on the show.
Oh, I love it.
So that's my approach, and it's actually been pretty successful. So when did you first get into music? At what age?
Well, my family is always, they're not musically inclined, but we always listen to music all the time. My dad was really big into 80s rock bands, and my mom listened to country music. And so I believe I was in third grade, and I convinced them to bring me with them to a Shania Twain concert. That's
cool.
When I really started getting into that. And I just thought she had a really cool job, and I was like, I want to do that.
Yeah. So when did you feel that when you were working on music that you wouldn't want to be like a cover artist, that you actually want to write your own material? When did you decide that would? Because some people get into music and they never get outside of being a cover band.
Yeah.
So what made you feel that like you had something to say that was different than what you heard?
I guess I kind of started quote unquote writing right off the bat. I don't know if it was like a conscious decision. It was just more like, okay, I want to be like Shania Twain, so I need my own songs, and it kind of evolved as I got older and I had more life experiences, and I was able to sort of draw from those to fuel my writing. But yeah.
So what, did you just use your voice, or did you write songs on guitar or piano?
So at first I would just use my voice, and I had a little tape recorder and I would do melodies into there. And then in 7th grade, I started playing guitar and taking lessons at school. And really just after that, I pretty much only wrote on guitar. But yeah, it's pretty much been the same ever since then.
I find out when I talk to a lot of musicians, they tend to start early. It's kind of like the Beethoven idea, or what happened when the Beatles came out. When the Beatles came out, they generated all these people who were their fans. They became bands, because they saw them on Ed Sullivan. They kind of created that whole movement. They created that power pop psychedelia. That people saw that. It's like Shania Twain was kind of like your Beatle reference influence, in terms of like having a reference point and say, yeah, I can do that, and then getting into it. A lot of people have done that. When I've talked to musicians, they seem to start young.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think it's music just speaks to you or it doesn't, and for those of us who are immersed in it now, I feel like it's one of those things that came into our lives really early and just really had an impact.
Yeah, so I asked you about like when you started. So you started young, like a lot of artists do. So what, Shania Twain, you name checked her as an influence. Do you have other artists that you're influenced by, or people can kind of pick up that you're using those reference points in your music, or you're inspired by it?
I guess I mean I'm constantly listening to new music, but growing up I listened to like a lot of the bands that my dad would listen to. So we listened to Fleetwood Mac and Def Leppard and Van Halen. And then I would also listen to artists like Miranda Lambert or Phil Vassar. Loved his songwriting, and just really, I guess, as I got into high school, Taylor Swift became prominent. And so kind of developed more of an ear for people coming out of Nashville, because that was sort of my end goal at this point in my life. And I'm even now looking for new songwriters every day, and just even writers around town and artists around town that have impressions on me.
And Nashville is a really cool scene because it's not just country. There's alternative and jazz and blues and all types of genres in that town.
There's something for everybody.
Yeah. It's just become like a music mecca, like Athens was back, like when REM had created, like started kind of putting Athens on the map. And then it became like an alternative indie college radio haven for a lot of bands. Seems like Nashville was like that kind of, it's kind of like going to LA.
Oh yeah, it's got that good music vibe. It's any day of the night, or I'm sorry, any day of the week you can find,
Yeah, band. You got Jack White's place going on, Third Man. You got all this really cool stuff going on.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting. The country was what you got pulled into. So, like my mom was from Morgantown, West Virginia. So my type of country music that I used to listen to was like Johnny Cash,
oh yeah,
Waylon Jennings. Really kind of hardcore, kind of like Johnny Cash talking about the jail situation. The kind of dark country, like the old school, really raggedy, rickety, sounds like a train. Having that kind of Americana. I really am drawn to that. But I see today there's kind of like Shania Twain kind of brought this kind of maybe rock influenced country or more modern type of country. And but I hear slide guitars in some of your music, which kind of brings me into the old school. But then you've got a lot of modern elements that are somewhat like Shania Twain stuff. So are you kind of riding the different genres or trying to go more progressive country, or how would you describe that?
I guess maybe naturally it leans more progressive. I guess when I'm making music, I'm not even, and I probably should, but I'm not even really considering genre. I kind of record the song how I feel like it needs to be recorded, and I think every song's a story and it says a certain thing. And I work with my producers and engineers to get it to where we feel like it's telling the story the best it can. And sometimes it ends up a little bit more pop, sometimes it ends up a little bit more country or more rock. And I think it's just a blend. Like I grew up in Pittsburgh, so right by Morgantown, but there wasn't a whole lot of country up there, and so I think my sound is sort of a combination of all my influences growing up.
Yeah, so you got that AM radio, rock radio kind of influence. So you got some of that Fleetwood Mac, but you got the songwriting. The thing about country music, they always tell stories.
Yeah.
Kind of like even if you get into the modern version of it, it's still the whole tradition of the kind of this Americana of telling a story.
Oh yeah,
like the heartbreak story or your relationship stories, but they're all stories.
And that's what I love about that, is especially because I'm such a lyric person anyway, and songs that really speak to me are the ones that really emotionally get to you with the words. And I think that's sort of what drew me towards country music.
Mm-hmm. But I see that you have, like I'm an electronic musician. I'm a progressive electronic. And so I see that you did actually like some of my stuff. So I see that you're actually looking at other genres outside of your
I listened to pretty much everything under the sun. When I was in high school, a lot of my group were in heavy metal bands. And, I've listened to hip hop. I listened to pop radio. I listened to pretty much anything that I can get my hands on. If it speaks to you, then it's good music. And there's some people who are very genre specific. And that's fine. But for me, it's just all about making music that you enjoy listening to, that other people enjoy listening to, regardless of what genre it falls under.
Yeah, because I think like in what I do in this job. I mean, I interviewed people multiple genres. I interviewed some punk rock bands this week. I interviewed some guys that were more electronic, like a pure EDM electronic musician, no vocals at all, just totally electronic music. And then I've interviewed punk bands in London. So I kind of grew up with a punk aesthetic. I mean, I like replacements, Who's Could Do and Sex Pistols, a lot of the hardcore Clash, stuff like that. But that always liked the songwriting, and some of the great like punk bands, they still had songwriting, tradition that was still kind of rock and roll.
Oh yeah.
The Clash, even though they're a punk band, they write as good as the Who. In terms of the content of their lyrics. And so some punk bands are actually not just thrashing; they're actually saying something, like Replacements, Paul Westerberg. There's a lot of really cool music, multiple genres. So I've always liked to mix genres when I work with people and collaborate and talk to folks. So you're the first country artist. We've wanted to get a country artist on the show, but that's cool that you're actually here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, because we don't want to just let people think we're just talking about DJ. Because I'm a keyboardist, people, you're just going to talk to DJs or EDMs. Like, no, I talk to any type of genre that I'm into. I mean, I listen to Coltrane, I listen to, Who's Could Do, I listen to, the 1975. So I'm all over the map.
I mean, that's what it makes it cool if you have that, variation. And I think everybody needs that, a little.
I think it helps your writing. Like if you listen to hip hop, you listen to jazz, or you listen to rock, you can take elements like a punk aesthetic and apply it to hip hop.
Oh yeah.
You can take a pure rock, of an Aerosmith, and then you had like what happened with Run DMC, the mixture of like Walk This Way, taking that risk to mix cross genre. I think a lot of people are doing it. There's a lot of bands that are crossing into hip hop and DJ and EDM, electronica and traditional rock, and it's cool. And it's cool to see in Nashville. There's such a wide variation of genres all over the town, and that's also very. I mean, someplace that the Ghost has always wanted to play. So I mean, we play New York, we play Boston, because we're in the Northeast. But playing that area would be awesome.
There was an EDM festival in Nashville a couple of years ago that I went to. Actually, it was pretty interesting you get the whole crowd that's different from the downtown Broadway crowd.
I guess I'm more like electronica synthwave, because I actually write songs, kind of like churches.
Okay, awesome.
Because sometimes electronic music is thought of as, they're just DJs and they're just creating like these like endless loops and stuff. But there are electronic bands that actually want to say something, kind of like going back to Depeche Mode or back to the new wave movement. There's the electronica and synthwave are bands that kind of bring back the 80s kind of synth stuff you used to see on MTV.
Yeah.
That's like The Cure and things like that. The more bands that were going that way, or going like David Bowie, Berlin mode, taking that kind of take on music, but actually not just making instrumental music, but actually songs.
Yeah, and I see that actually in like East Nashville, especially. There's a lot of clubs over there that
they're doing
that. They're less country and more. I mean, they've got everything,
During the modern, there's so many different genres today. It's like, because one of the questions I like to ask people is it because of the nature of the music industry today, there's a lot of indie artists, there's a lot of artists that aren't on labels, there's a lot of artists that are on the streaming services. So what are your opinions about like the streaming services and record labels or being indie? Like, where are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, the benefits obviously of being independent, if you can do it successfully, are that you get to pay out yourself and that's it. I think the challenge of Spotify and having streaming services is just the fact that it's so accessible that now you're not just competing with CDs on shelves, you're competing with anybody with a computer. And then on the same token, the payouts for it, we're coming up with a generation that has never had to pay for music, and we're now a subscription-based society, and so I think the legalese and the way that people are paid out hasn't caught up yet to culture, and I think until there's some sort of, and I know they've been putting a few, like Music Modernization Act just went through Congress, and there's a few steps being taken in the right direction as far as paying out the artists and the songwriters, more like they would have been paid back in the days when people bought albums and records.
Yeah, I think there's a big problem. Like in some cases where you get to be a SoundCloud artist, or you're like on a YouTube artist, or you're on these streaming services, and you don't really get paid, and
Yeah.
you could have 80,000 plays and not get any money.
Oh yeah, it's worth like $8 or something.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm a SoundCloud artist. I've been on SoundCloud for a while. I got like 81,000 plays, but I have not seen one penny from that.
That's crazy.
But it got me here, and I actually do get supported on my podcast. So sometimes you have to be a little innovative. I actually have sponsors on this podcast, and I get paid that way.
Yeah.
And so it's different ways of figuring out how do you actually maneuver this market.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, someone said to me the other day, because I was having this conversation too, and they were saying it's almost made it to the point where it's not like a record sales. Like you spend a lot of money on this record that's literally just a promotional tool, like a music video would be, or something like that, in order to get people to buy tickets or to buy merchandise.
Yeah. Merch. Merch, your t-shirts, and your physical. What I see today, what the new trend seems to be, is like if you put something on vinyl and you show up like in New York City and you play a show, you can sell all that vinyl at that show. You'll sell it all. People want to have it that way. They'll physically buy a vinyl version of your record.
Yeah.
They might not buy the CD, but they might not buy the download. But if you physically play a show and you have that with you, or you have your t-shirt, you'll make more money selling t-shirts and posters and vinyl than you would selling a download or a CD.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's now quote unquote vintage enough where it's back in style.
It seems to be. Have you noticed that people want your material on vinyl if people ask you?
I've never actually put my material on vinyl, and I'm still at the beginning stages with this new music, and haven't quite figured out how I want to distribute it. We had a couple shows at festivals this summer, but I think once I put together a tour, I'm going to be looking more at what my merch is going to be and what I'm offering there. But I think it's very interesting because that's definitely a trend now, and even you see some of the bigger artists and the labels putting out that.
Well, the thing about vinyl is, like, for the artist, you make a lot more money on vinyl.
Yes.
Because the fans are willing to pay $25, $30, $40 for vinyl.
Okay.
It's just amazing what they're willing to pay.
Yeah, and I know record companies and artists alike are capitalizing on that, just because right now the money has to come from somewhere, and it's trending now more towards merchandise.
But the cool thing about it is, like, back in the day, I'm like showing my age, I'm a 50-year-old artist, but back when I listened to music, it was on vinyl. And part of the appeal of vinyl was that you get a lyric sheet, you'd have this big art that you could see, and that when you listen to a record, like Rumors, you listen to the whole thing.
Oh,
And if you're an artist that writes music that kind of goes together in an album format, the one format that continues to have your fans listen to your whole project is vinyl. Like if you do a full record that has a theme and you put it on vinyl, your fans will actually listen to the whole thing through, rather than just picking and choosing singles.
Oh yeah, and it's a lot more just technically difficult even to change songs with the record than it would be to.
Yeah, so you tend to, like, a listener, once they put it on, they listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Which, if you're an artist that has a concept, if you're a progressive band, or you're writing songs and they kind of flow together, and you have an idea for a project, and you kind of want people to listen to the whole thing in an era where, everybody's got their phone and they're just jumping from track to track on these playlists.
Yeah.
The vinyl kind of gives an artist that wants to continue to do that a way to continue to write like that. And that's kind of cool, I think.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I know a lot of friends of mine who prefer that just to even any of these subscription sites.
Well, I think if it gets you close to the music, you feel like you're more into the artist when you actually have a physical item. I mean, I maybe I'm kind of showing my age, but when I used to I picked up Purple Rain as a vinyl. I actually went and got the vinyl, and when I listened to it that way, I mean, I just I heard it before it got popular, and I was like, wow, and I had to listen to the whole thing, and I think that just the act of doing that, as a kid, listen to Sgt. Pepper's on vinyl, Rumors, or any of the great albums that Pink Floyd albums. It was just this experience. You would have your friends, and you all sit and listen in front of the record player,
Yeah.
and then you would talk about it, and then you would like analyze it, and music wasn't just something that you jogged to.
Yeah. Oh,
you know what I mean? Or you'd fall asleep to.
And I mean, I come a little bit after that genre, but as far as, like I know I had a collection of CDs that I wore out, and I went through the lyric books, and like part of
Yeah.
it was having that physical thing. You go to the store the day of the release and you go buy it, and
Yeah. I mean, yeah, when the download, I mean, you have immediacy, but then you lose some of the connection to the artist
yes,
that used to get through the packaging. That I think that a lot of people want that, and why you see the vinyl coming back. But so have you thought of collaborating with like jazz or other genres in your music going forward?
yeah. I try to sort of branch out as much as I can. I mean, it's great having a hub like Nashville because it's so eclectic, and there's a lot of artists who walk the line between different genres, and I know a lot of the players on the album, and even just moving forward, people that I meet, they all have their own specific backgrounds. I know we had like one of the best acoustic guitarists. He's like world renowned, like picker. It's like bluegrass, and he's just great. But he is able to bring this element to almost a pop track, and it just makes it into something different. And I think I'm always just looking for new sounds and new ways to pique listener interest. And yeah, I'm definitely a collaboration person for sure.
So when you perform live in Nashville at the different venues?
I do, yes. So I do a couple full band shows in Nashville, although most of my full band stuff is out of town just because Nashville is such a writer's town. And so I'll play a lot of writers' rounds. I play probably about 2 a week. Basically, for people outside Nashville, there's 3 writers that are up there, 3 or 4 writers, and you kind of just go down the line, talk about your songs, play your songs, and kind of play on each other's songs. It's pretty cool. But you get sort of a different feel, if you're at a writer's round versus a full band show where you've got.
So that kind of like unplugged kind of session, or you're playing just acoustic guitar? Or
yeah,
that's cool. So it's like an unplugged kind of, like for those who used to watch that show,
exactly. And it's nice because you can kind of test out songs and get people's reactions before you apply it to a full band kind of stage setting.
Yeah, now you could have somebody come in with a mandolin or a banjo and kind of give it a real, Americana kind of feel if you wanted.
Yeah, definitely.
There's a lot of cool stuff you could do with that, because I'm a big fan of like the band, Robbie Robertson and all those guys.
Yeah.
And what they used to bring was like the ability to play all those classic instruments, classic acoustic instruments like mandolins and accordions, and just this pure musicianship, and that kind of Americana thing is like, I'm a big fan of that. Shows my age, I guess, but does that make people talk about the band anymore?
No, I love that. I had a friend that's like their favorite band.
Yeah, they're just so deep. I mean, in terms of the capability of this, I can't, I just go crazy listening to their music. But so do you have any shows you're doing for the holiday that you want to promote?
So I'm taking a little break for the holiday. I think my first show back in January is, I want to say, the 10th. That Thursday is, let me see. Yeah. So I'm playing the 10th in Midtown in Nashville. And pretty much before then, I'm back home briefly for the holiday, and then before New Year's, I'm gonna go back in the studio. We cut we cut a session last week, and then trying to finish up vocals and do some mixing on it before we get too far into the new year. So gonna try and make that last sort of while everybody's still on break, and hopefully come back guns blazing.
So is Flame from a project, or is that just a separate single?
So Flame is a separate single, although it might make it onto my next project. Flame is funny because I wasn't even intending on releasing it. I write constantly, and we kind of demo songs constantly because I pitch them as well. And that was one that I wrote and that I really wanted to demo. And so I took it to my friend, Christian Santangelo, and I was, told him what I wanted the feel to be like. And we went in and cut vocals on it, and it came back, and I was like, this is, as an artist, you like have something in your head, but it doesn't always manifest the way you think it is. But in this case, Flame sounded exactly the way it sounded in my head. And I was like,
well,
I don't even want to change it at all. Like I don't want to put this out. And so I think we like tweaked levels a little bit and sent it to mastering, and that was that. It wasn't even intentionally, but after I got it back, I was like, I need to share this.
So do you record in a full recording studio, like a traditional recording studio type of setup?
I do about half and half. I do like the full band feel sometimes because you get the vibe of the musicians together, but a lot of the stuff that I do is out of home studios and just friends' places that have good recording equipment. And honestly, I mean, a lot of the time that's almost just as good. And I don't want to, certain things obviously are going to sound better in a full-fledged recording studio, but a lot of what we do is just creation from home at like 4 a.m. on a Tuesday. And I mean, some of that stuff is just as cool as having a giant studio behind you.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of home. I got a home studio, and a lot of electronic artists, because we're dealing with like synthesizers and drum machines and those things. If you just have good recording equipment and you use the digital audio workstations, but I mean, I kind of prefer analog soundboards. Because I'm using like Moogs and Hammonds and Prophet, like real synthesizers, not plugins.
Okay,
I'm kind of a proponent of actually playing analog synths.
That's awesome.
Which is kind of coming back. And so with that, analog recording equipment is coming back. And so I tend to use a lot of analog, but then I convert it to digital. But I try not to lose the power that came from these analog instruments, because that's part of what's going on. There's like a new revolution of realizing some of these synthesizers that came from the 60s and 70s or 80s had a sound quality that you don't want to get compressed in a MacBook, that you want that full sound to actually hit the tape. And there's a new type of things going on within that genre, is people are trying to capture, the analog nature of these instruments, which is, similar to what people, when they want to capture an acoustic guitar, it's the same kind of concept with us. It's like, we want to capture these old instruments, these old Moogs and Prophets. Could we, remember, that back in the day when David Bowie was doing like Fame, or you're listening to Flock of Seagulls or Duran Duran. I mean, those are analog synths. Those are not digital synths. And there's a difference in the way that sounds compared to what you hear today. And some of that's actually coming back.
Yeah. And I mean, as technology evolves, they find ways to maximize that sound. And, I think it's really cool because you get this combination of old and new sounds.
Yeah, it's everything today. Is like everything from the 70s is coming back. The 80s is coming back. And we're in an age where people go back and they go forward. So you have forward-leaning people, and you have people pulling things from the old days. Bands like, soul bands trying to bring back Motown and Stax.
Oh, yeah.
People trying to recreate Johnny Cash. People just go and pick whatever point in history they like, whether it's forward or backward, and they kind of just jumbling it all together.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's becoming, like you said, trending again. Even have you heard the Outfield by the Night Game?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I mean, it's got that Top Gun feel, you know.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people just reaching back to different times because there's like nostalgia. I think sometimes there are moments that you remember certain songs and they bring up memories,
Yeah.
and they bring up nostalgia, and then people want to bring that back, or they want to bring that feeling back, and so they try to bring that sound back because it evokes. I mean, disco's real famous for that. It kind of brings a feeling, like of what it was like to be at Studio 54.
Yeah.
Back when it was happening, and then people want to bring that back. So there's always this kind of retro thing going on, along with the forward leaning stuff, which I think is cool. It's just like people are just wherever they're going to be. You don't have to be pinned down. That's why I think this age is really good, that you don't have to be pinned down.
Yeah, we've got capabilities for both. I think that's really cool.
So is there anything you want to talk to your fans about that you've always wanted somebody to ask you?
Oh boy. Well, I mean, I'm very much a people person, so I love talking to people online if that's your thing, and you follow my socials and strike up a conversation. I guess as far as the new year goes, I'm hoping to put out some new music, and I'm actually in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign right now. It goes until December 24th, so we got like 3 days left. And basically just trying to raise money for the new year and for both recording the music and marketing it. So that's sort of the next game plan. And then I've also got a music video for Flame that's coming out on January, I want to say 7th. Yes. January 7th. So going to release that through the Country Network and on YouTube. So that's definitely something that we can look forward to.
That's awesome. So we can, if you have any, links that you can want to add to this podcast, you can send them to me through our connection where we have. I'm going to put like all your links from Spotify up on this podcast. So
thank you.
I can always attach links, and I can attach things. So if you have anything that you particularly want to push, let me know, and I can add that as a link. And what's cool is if you forget, we can continually update your podcast. And so if you don't remember something or you want to add something, we can actually add a link into this podcast in the future, and it'll migrate through all of the different platforms.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. But it's really fun to be doing this because I get to talk to artists from all over the world. And, as a musician myself, it's really interesting to see where other musicians are coming from. And so I really appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great new year.
Yeah, you
and
too. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. We'll put this out. I'll send you the links as soon as they're available. It's going to come out tonight, so you're going to get it in the next hour or two.
Perfect. That sounds great. I'll keep on the lookout for it, and I'll blast it out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, have a good night.
You too.
This is Van Electric Ghost, and we're pushing our brand new record, Dark Ghost Volume 1, which is going to be on Diggers Factory Records. And so if you go to https://www.diggersfactory.com/vinyl/226598, you can get our brand new album on pre-order. Comes out in April. We have 196 copies out of 200 left. It's $24 plus shipping and handling. It's a 2-vinyl album. It is our statement on electronica, experimental music, and progressive trance. It is mastered for vinyl, and it's our first vinyl record. It's part of the Dark Ghost series of records. So again, it's www.diggersfactory, that's DIGGERS factory, all one word, .com/vinyl/226598. And we'd appreciate your order, and we'll be very happy that you're checking out our music, and we'll be very supportive of you as a fan, because we'll give you some cool goodies if you sign up. So please check it out. It's www.diggersfactory.com/vinyl/226598.